Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto received more than will of fire from Hashirama. What if it was something tangible with the blood of Shodai running through his veins? What changes will come to the Naruto verse? Before we start, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to this channel for more what ifs, and check the description for creator of this great fanfic. So let us start. Disclaimer. I do not own Naruto. Chapter 30. Madara tension, so thick it almost seemed palpable. There was an oppressive pressure in the air and would have surely demoralized and paralyzed lesser individuals. Luckily, Toby was strong enough mentally to still be able to stand, let alone speak, after his rendition of events since his latest sensei's death. 6 Biju, said Madara as he stared out at the forest surrounding him. Toby stood beside Madara but a few steps back as they both were overlooking the land outside their hideout. The calm tone of Madara irked Toby because he'd expected rash aggression and verbal slander from the man. Instead, he was treated with an even worse outcome, disappointment. There's nothing like disappointing someone who depended on you or had hopes for you. It's a kick to the stomach. A physical kick can be healed, but disappointment was an emotional kick to the stomach that lingered. It was pain without remedy. It just hurt. So Toby said nothing as he sat in silence with Madara continuing to look outward into the forest. The silence was inevitably broken when Zetsu appeared from the ground and gave some news that released some of the tension. Madara-sama, the last 3 Biju are all in one place, said Black Zetsu as his white half continued for him. The Nibi, Hachibi, and the Kyubi are all facing off against the other members of Akatsuki. It does seem like the Jinchuriki will succeed. Though it may take a lot out of them and you can clean up and take all 3 at the same time. Madara's head picked up at that as his Sharingan glowed. It appears that you have been given a chance to reconcile your mistake. Let us go, we will collect the Biju now and finish Project Tsuki no Mi. Toby nodded his head before placing a hand on Madara's back. A spiral vortex appeared as the two of them vanished into it. This should be interesting, said Zetsu before he disappeared into the ground to get a view of the fight that was about to occur. Kumogakure 10 minutes earlier, we never catch a break from these guys, said Naruto before dodging a myriad of attacks against him from one of the zombie duo, Kakazu. Just after dodging Kakazu, Naruto was met with the constant offense of Hidan as he jumped back away from swings of the man's scythe. 20 minutes ago, everything was calm and Naruto was just telling Yugito about Omegakure. Then they noticed Killer B shift into the Hachibi. Yugito realized that if B did something like that within the confines of Kumogakure, then he was likely in a battle and the two took off immediately. Luckily they did, as they were met with Kisame battling against B and 3 more members of Akatsuki waiting for them in Deidara, Hidan, and Kakazu. Yugito set off to deal with Deidara as Naruto handled the zombie duo. Each of the 3 Jinchuriki were separated on 3 different mountain peaks turned platforms in their duel with Akatsuki. Almost in a triangle if one were to look from above. And Naruto was left against 2 opponents to contend with in the battle. The zombie duo was relentless in their assault as far as Naruto was concerned, especially Hidan. But Naruto had information on the 2 of them and Hidan wasn't really as good as his S rank led him to be. Immortality and wanton slaughter certainly bolstered one's reputation. Eventually, Naruto stopped dodging before stepping into one of Hidan's swings with a tri-pronged kunai in hand. Blocking the scythe with ease, Naruto planted a kick in Hidan's sternum to send him skidding backward. Naruto then looked over to Kakazu to see him standing still and just staring at him. A black being, comprised completely of threads with a white mask and red painting on it, appeared right next to Naruto as he looked on at its sudden appearance. Kaiten. Zukoku, fire style. Intelligent hard work, said Kakazu as a ball of fire appeared in the mosque's mouth and fired off a powerful stream of fire that engulfed Naruto. The fire blazed for a while before coming to a stop to reveal Naruto burning completely. Though it was only a wood clone. Just like Hashirama. I can't tell the difference between the clones and the original. Kakazu watched his fire mask get drug into the ground by its ankles from a pair of hands belonging to another Naruto clone. As the being got drugged down, another Naruto was revealed behind it with a Rasengan flowing through the back of the mosque's head. Rasengan, said Naruto as the bright blue ball of energy burst the mask into pieces as the threads simply went limp as if it died. Naruto let the Rasengan dissipate before looking at Kakazu. 1 heart down. 4 more to go. He has information on me, thought Kakazu before seeing Hidan run up behind Naruto to strike him down. Kakazu followed the movement with his eyes as he continued thinking. The kid is definitely no pushover. I have to be more careful about my approach. All I need is one hit. One drop of blood, said Hidan, swinging his scythe with newfound effort and in a way that caused fewer openings than his previous attempt. Come on, kid. Just mess up once. You're too slow to touch me, said Naruto, blocking several strikes with his kunai before feeling Kakazu appear behind him. An orange chakra shroud burst around Naruto as he simply vanished from view, dodging the backhand from Kakazu in the process. Kakazu's eyes widened at the speed before he watched Naruto appear behind Hidan with a kunai lodged through his chest, directly where his heart is. The Kyuubi, you tamed it, said Kakazu, seeing the orange glow in Naruto's now slit eyes. Kakazu spat out black threads, deciding to alter his game plan. This really isn't good. Fuck, that hurts, asshole. Well, I could have put this kunai in your brain to see what that would have done, but you really are immortal. That's amazing, said Naruto as Hidan just stared at Naruto with a smug look. Yeah, so now you see how useless fighting me is. Just give up. You'll save me a lot of time, said Hidan before feeling Naruto turn his kunai inside his body. Damn it, kid. I'm immortal. What part of that don't you get? Unknowingly to Hidan, the small seal on Naruto's kunai glowed after Naruto twisted his kunai and it seeped out across Hidan's back. Naruto left his kunai in Hidan before stepping backward and clapping his hands together. Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, Uzumaki sealing technique, said Naruto, placing his hands in the boar seal before slamming his right hand on the ground. A seal etched its way to Hidan before closing him in a circle of kanji. In the middle of the seal, an Uzumaki swirl appeared right below Hidan before sparking with lightning and glowing blue. Hidan appeared to be dragged into the ground before vanishing entirely, sealed into the earth with Naruto's kunai sticking out of the ground as a sort of tombstone. Naruto nodded at his work before looking at Kakazu. Hidan was a fool to allow an Uzumaki to touch him for that long, said Kakazu as Naruto tensed at Kakazu squatting down. Let's see how you compare to Hashirama. See if you even match his strength. Naruto noticed Kakazu's new appearance. Kakazu's threads had spread out of his body, taking on a sort of octopus-like appearance as Naruto could feel his chakra level increase in the new form. Not only that, Kakazu had the remaining three of his masks appear above and on either side of his head, all preparing a different element to send Naruto's way. Kakazu leapt into the air before stopping and hovering above Naruto in the sky. Naruto's eyes pandered up to Kakazu's before a small smile graced his face. At least he's not as dumb as his partner, said Naruto before frowning slightly. Why am I happy about that? That makes it harder for me. Naruto then dodged one of Kakazu's tendrils coming down as their fight began again. With Killer Bee, oh ho ho ho, Hachibi. You're probably the strongest Jinchuriki I've ever faced. Maybe outside of Naruto-san, said an enormous Kisame with more shark-like attributes than before. Kisame had merged with Samahata earlier in the fight. This bolstered his physical appearance into that of a monstrous humanoid shark. And he was facing against the full Biju in the Hachibi at the current moment. This water prison is mighty big. But Killer Bee Sama still gonna split your wig. Yeeeeeaahhh. Shouted Killer Bee in his fully transformed form, trapped inside a massive dome of water that Kisame created. In Bee's mindscape, he was tapped on the head by one of the Hachibi's giant fingers. Conserve your air. Stop all that useless rapping, this opponent is strong. I know that 8-0. I am taking him seriously. Just give me a bit of your chakra and we'll wipe him out with a Bijudama. No rap meant Bee was serious. Outside of Bee's mindscape, a violent black ball began to form just outside of his mouth. Kisame merely grinned at the potent chakra being formed. That's a lot of chakra you're building up. Too bad though, said Kisame as he clapped his hands together for a technique. I'm your worst matchup. An enormous water shark appeared inside the dome of water with Kisame inside its mouth. Kisame thrust his arms out, the bottom of each palm touching, as the water shark made its way to Killer Bee, who released his own jutsu. Bijudama Tailed Beast Ball, Sweden. Daikoden no Jutsu, Water Style. Great Shark Bullet Technique. The two techniques met with Kisame's appearing to eat Bee's jutsu and grow in size before continuing forward. Killer Bee was so shocked at what occurred that he did nothing but take the shark right on the chin. The shark detonated and blasted him out of the water prison with concussive force. Word to Yamama, that thing ate a Bijudama, thought Killer B as he laid on the ground, out of his full transformation, in just a standard version 1 Jinchuriki cloak. Killer B strained to pick his head up but in doing so was met with Kisame landing in front of him, taking a swipe at his legs with Samahata. B managed to evade taking the swipe but still lost his cloak in the process from the chakra-eating sword, further weakening him. Samahata's never been this excited about someone's chakra before, said Kisame holding the sentient sword in his hand. Samahata was also much larger in appearance from absorbing Killer B's chakra that its mouth became more pronounced and its size was bigger than Kisame himself. Thank you Hachibi, now just stay still and I'll cut off your legs. Kisame prepped for another swipe at Killer B but just before he did, Samahata twitched in a warning. Though it came too late as a blue blur barreled into Kisame. The ex-Kiri swordsman was smacked clear across a ravine and into the side of a taller mountain. Arubo, elbow. I, bathed in his lightning armor, stood over B with his elbow extended. I then looked to the Hachibi Jinchuriki to see him on the ground in pain from his run-in with Kisame. You're welcome. Thanks, bro. You stay down B and regain your chakra, I'll handle him. B nodded as I took off to where he smacked Kisame. With Yugito, why'd we have to get the long-distance one, kitten? Asked Yugito's Biju, the Nibi. Yugito was in the process of dodging another clay bird from the Iowa bomber, Didera, as she continued to scamper around away from his long-range assault. I'm not too sure, thought Yugito before unleashing a mighty blue fireball from her mouth that Didera easily dodged before sending out another clay bird. If I had to guess though I'd assume from our earlier run-in with those immortal dudes that we couldn't beat them before and I'd still be hard-pressed now. B-sama was already taking on Kisame. Leaving us with this guy. Yugito dodged another barrage of clay birds sent toward her as the Nibi internally nodded her head. Makes sense. The rakeage has arrived at least, said Nibi before seeing a stream of blue beams approach Didera at a rapid pace. Oh, more than just the rakeage. I believe the correct term is cavalry. Yugito just smiled. Yes, Nibi-chan. The cavalry has arrived, thought Yugito as she saw A's right-hand man, Darui, fire off power streams of energy at Didera. Rantan. Reiza Sakasu, storm style. Laser circus, said Darui firing off the guided beams at Didera. Didera grimaced at the powerful ranged technique but his clay owl managed to evade all of the beams. Then the Iowa bomber was blinded by a flashbang. Well, at least what appeared to be a flashbang. Reagan Reikochu, lightning illusion flash of lightning pillar, said she as the bright light engulfed Didera. Didera recognized the genjutsu attempt almost immediately and channeled his chakra accordingly to break it. Upon doing so, Didera just chuckled to himself. Cats move fast I see, said Didera as behind him stood Yugito, bathed in her blue chakra cloak. Yes we do, said Yugito before extending her fingernails and lashing out at Didera. Konoha. Same time, Shiso, are you serious? Yes, I am Sakura. It really wasn't that bad, said Tsunade setting her teacup down on her desk. Jiraiya wasn't the lecherous Jiraiya on our date. He was just Jiraiya and it was mightily refreshing. Are you saying you actually like Jiraiya-sama? Don't insinuate that. That won't happen, said Tsunade picking up a document on her desk. There's a long backstory behind that which I'm sure you'd love to hear but this isn't the place for that nor do I feel like sharing it. Sakura only smiled at Tsunade though, despite her words. Tsunade-sama has a thing for her teammate, said Sakura as Tsunade's cheeks heated up into a blush. Not out of embarrassment but out of anger. Perhaps both. Sakura. For the, Tsunade's reply was cut short as her teacup cracked out of nowhere. Tsunade and Sakura both looked at the cup with worried expressions on their faces. Both knew something bad happened or was about to happen. With something like that, it usually preceded bad things. An omen of things to come. Root-based Kaiten. Hosenka Mekyaku, fire style. Phoenix Sage Fire Annihilation, said Sasuke before his chest puffed up and he launched out a volley of fireballs. The fireballs grew in size as they headed toward 8 target dummies. The fireballs hit each dummy pinpoint before exploding into a shower of fire around them. Sasuke admired his work before his eternal Sharingan looked over to the man standing directly to his right. The man had a small smile on his face at what he saw. That is an impressive jutsu, Sasuke-kun, said Itachi with his own M's shining brightly in the dim underground base. Sasuke just smirked at that acknowledgement from his elder brother. Thanks, Ni-san. Though it's not the only thing I've been working on, said Sasuke as an ethereal being formed around Sasuke in a purple chakra. My Susanoo, I've accessed more of it. Itachi's eyes seemed to analyze the new Susanoo as he noticed a few differences about it from when the two of them fought. Instead of the arrows made of chakra like before, Sasuke's Susanoo now wielded arrows made of Amaterasu's fire. Sasuke could now fire bows of inextinguishable flames against his opponents. But that wasn't the only change, the other was a pair of wings spreading out of his Susanoo's back. The scaled hands, beak-like hood, wings, and Amaterasu arrows gave Sasuke's Susanoo a daunting appearance. Just before Itachi could comment on the new Susanoo, he seemed to jolt slightly before peering his eyes out to his right. Sasuke noticed the action and also looked in the same direction while letting his Susanoo fade. Knowing Sasuke would ask, Itachi answered before he could ask the question. I have a feeling something bad has occurred. With Naruto stood, still cloaked in his Kyuubi chakra mode, in front of Kakazu who was looking at him with a grin on his face. Several branches were skewered through Kakazu's body as he sat motionless in the piercing trees. Coughing up blood, Kakazu was nearing the end. Seems that I still can't overcome that Kekkei Genkai. You're the strongest of Hashirama's ilk in years, said Kakazu before coughing up more blood. Naruto merely took out a kunai as Kakazu left him with a few more words. Seems you really are Hashirama's heir. Even more skilled than I remember him being. Naruto spared no more words before planting the kunai into Kakazu's head, killing the dangerous Akatsuki member. Naruto looked over to his left to see Ai handling Kisame with ease and to his right to see Yugito, Darui, and Shi taking care of Deidara. Naruto just nodded his head, realizing that the other two fights were going well. I'll be the judge of whether or not you're comparable to Hashirama. Naruto's eyes widened recognizing Toba's chakra signature and even more when Kurama told him who the second signature belonged to. Uchiha Madara. Naruto turned around and there standing before him, exactly like his statue at the Valley of the End, was Uchiha Madara. Madara had waist-length hair with shoulder-length bangs framing the sides of his face, covering most of his right eye. Madara had prominent creases under both of his eyes, which were blood red with his M's staring at Naruto. Madara wore a blue high-collared, long-sleeved blue mantle that splits down the lower half and a simple, light brown obi and belt. On his back was his famous war fan that had a long black chain running up it. Madara just glowered at Naruto for a few seconds before nodding his head. You seem like quite the challenge, said Madara with his arms crossed looking at Naruto. To tame the Kyuubi inside of you is impressive. And hearing all of these stories about you only makes me want to find out if they bear any truth. Naruto didn't speak as he continued to look at the legendary Uchiha. This was one of the founders of Konoha. The penultimate shinobi of his best friend's clan. Naruto was then dragged into his mindscape to speak with his Biju companion. Naruto, do not trifle with this man. He knows that, Kyuubi, said Madara standing next to Naruto in his mindscape. Naruto's eyebrows raised at Madara's appearance inside his own mind but chalked it up to his prowess with the Sharingan. Itachi could do the same and so could Sasuke, why wouldn't the most powerful Uchiha in history be able to? Frankly, how is he even here? How are you alive? I believe his name was Nagato. He was forced to bring me back with a special technique of the Rinnegan. And I'm here to correct the mistakes of my underling in capturing you Jinchuriki. Madara, shouted Kurama as he stood up and snarled at Madara. Madara looked at Kurama before the large fox was silenced by the powerful Uchiha. Kurama's eyes glazed over as Madara looked back at Naruto. Can't deal with distractions from a mindless beast, said Madara before seeing Naruto channel his chakra. Madara's eyes widened in surprise when Naruto's chakra was actually powerful enough to dispel his control of the Kyuubi. That presence gives me nostalgia of Hashirama. Naruto didn't speak another word before the Madara in front of him was violently kicked out of his mind. Kurama clearly didn't like the Uchiha. Madara grinned at being expelled before addressing the boy in front of him. Do not disappoint me, said Madara before blowing out a violent wave of fire at Naruto. Naruto was quick to act, having already placed his hands in the snake seal. Mokuton. Hobi no Jutsu, wood style. Wood expulsion technique. A large, wooden dragon head surrounded Naruto and protected him from the powerful fire technique. Madara then had to jump back to avoid a large claw made of wood that attempted to attack him from underneath the ground. The wooden dragon head around Naruto sank back into the floor as Naruto just channeled more chakra into his second technique. Mokuton. Hote no Jutsu, wood style. Laughing Buddha technique thought Naruto as more clawed hands, reminiscent of a fox's paw, burst from the ground surrounding Madara. Yes, said Madara as a blue chakra surrounded him, growing into his Susanoo. Madara's Susanoo had 4 arms as each one had a sword in hand. Madara did a quick spin and sliced the hands to stop Naruto's attack. Madara smiled as he saw Naruto had already moved again. You dance well. No faltering in your steps. A crack formed against Madara's Susanoo as Naruto stood with an enormous Rasengan trying to crush Madara's technique. Sasuke's Susanoo would have broken from the size of this Rasengan, thought Naruto needing to dodge a fist coming at him. Madara is on a whole other level than that Sasuke boy. That technique is based on the user's spiritual energy and willpower. Madara has one of the strongest I've ever seen, said Kurama, giving begrudging respect to the man he hated the most. You'll need Sage Mode to beat him. That's not even the full might of his Susanoo. There's more to it, questioned Naruto as his question got answered by Madara. His Susanoo grew legs and stood in front of Naruto. Many times the size of the average man. No freaking way does his Susanoo have legs. Why is it so big? You haven't seen anything yet. That's not even the full Susanoo. Come, boy. Show me the power of a Senju as only Hashirama could, said Madara before sending out another powerful stream of fire at Naruto, quicker than the first. With it seems the stories are true of you being the fastest man alive, said a bloodied and beat up Kisame. Kisame had been decimated in his battle against the Yondaime Raikage. And now, since Samahata wasn't within reach, Kisame couldn't even heal from his wounds. I just continued to stand before Kisame in his lightning cloak as he looked down at the defeated swordsman. I won't allow you Akatsuki to take B or Yugito. Those other villages may not have cared about their shinobi, but Kumogakure is different, said I as his cloak sparked a bit brighter as he prepped to finish Kisame for good. Rocketing toward Kisame with an arm extended, I prepared to take his head clean off his shoulders. Rariato, lariat. I hit Kisame across the neck. Actually, I didn't touch Kisame at all. Instead, I ended up rocketing toward the wall and stopping just before hitting it. I then turned around to only see the masked man standing there. I can't let you do that, Raikage. I have more use for him. The masked man, Tobi. The real leader of Akatsuki, said I, reciting the information Naruto gave to him from his time with Nagato and Omegakure. The man who can evade any attack. Can be pretty much anywhere with your space-time ninjutsu. And lo and behold, is an Uchiha as well. Someone's done their homework. Tobi then watched I turn to B before slowly walking over to him. I know you know better than to try and touch me. Because in that instance, I'll put you 6 feet under, said I in a serious tone before vanishing to his brother's location. Tobi stood unfazed before letting out a sigh at the powerful Kage's words. As much as I wish to show him how wrong he is, he doesn't have a Biju. It'd be pointless, thought Tobi before vanishing in another spiraling vortex. If he couldn't get to B without the Raikage's interference and Naruto was being handled by Madara, that left him with one option. The Nibi should be easy pickings. With Yugito stood on her own mountain peak, flanked by Darui and Shi, as the 3 of them looked at the motionless Deidara on the ground before them. Wonder what he would have done if we didn't stop that last attempt, said Darui looking lazily down at the dead Akatsuki member. Deidara, after being violently beat off his clay owl, knew that he'd stand no chance against the cloaked Yugito. Let alone her with backup. So Deidara went with his last trump move, an explosion the size of 10 kilometers. Though it never came to fruition as Yugito appeared in front of him with a lightning-enhanced claw to the heart, ending any buildup of his final technique. Yeah, thank Kami you thought and moved fast, Yugito-chan. I don't know what we would have done, said she before jolting his head up. She looked to Naruto's location as he saw a large blue entity. One he recognized. I didn't know someone in the Akatsuki could use Susanoo. Yugito peered her eyes over to Naruto and her eyes widened at the scene. None of them can. There isn't one anymore since Itachi left. Yugito prepared to take off and help Naruto, but the sudden appearance of the masked man impeded her. Sorry Nibi, I can't allow you to do that, said the masked man as Yugito stopped her progress to stare at him hatefully. Not this guy again. But it won't be like AIM this time, thought Yugito, shifting her feet into a stance. I know your secret. Just before Yugito could move, an enormous explosion occurred where Naruto was at. Yugito looked past the masked man to see the entire mountain peak Naruto was on was destroyed in a blaze with fire. Naruto-kun, thought Yugito before seeing her boyfriend appear next to her in a shunshin. Yugito took in Naruto's appearance to see him missing most of his shirt, only the parts lower than his belly button remaining. His pants were also singed but were still intact and he was somehow free of injury other than missing his shirt. Probably due to the Jinchuriki cloak around him. Naruto-kun, what happened? Questioned Yugito as Naruto continued to stare at the platform that looked like a torch with the fire blazing the top of it. Big explosion. Very big. Toad oil and explosive notes. With Naruto, earlier come, boy. Show me the power of a senju is only Hashirama could, said Madara. Madara then placed his hands in the tiger seal as he prepped another technique. Kaiten. Goku Meshitsu, fire style. Great flame destruction. Madara let loose a stream of fire at Naruto once again. Naruto channeled chakra as the ground around him cracked and a forest sprang up to fight the fire being sent out by Madara. Madara continued his flamethrower technique before catching movement at the edge of the mountain top. Naruto stood on the edge of the mountain with his hands in the ram seal. Dai Gamma Udent Great Toad Bullet, said Naruto as his chest puffed up and his mouth filled with toad oil. Naruto let the toad oil fly off in a stream as it met the trees and fire right at their meeting point. The boy is fast. Not only will the oil ignite into a fire, thought Madara as he turned his Sharingan back to the trees, seeing white pieces of paper nearing the fire as well. He even managed to place high-powered explosive notes on the trees and timed it perfectly. I'm liking this. I haven't felt a thrill like this in a fight since Hashirama. Seems that Kakazu wasn't wrong in his assessment. Naruto's oil and explosive notes met the fire at the same time as it all detonated in an explosion of fire. Flashback end, and you just didn't make it far enough away in time, said Yugito as Naruto nodded. Never was one for the ending of your plan in making sure you don't get hurt. Oi, that was once on that floating ship that belonged to the Sky Ninja Fleet, said Naruto as Yugito just shook her head amused. Yugito's amusement ended though as she noticed the blue Susanoo land on the same platform as them, directly next to Toby. Unlike Naruto, Madara was untouched by the explosion and his Susanoo didn't even look fazed by it in the slightest. It was at that moment that Yugito, Darui, and she all recognized the man before them and their eyes widened in shock. Naruto-kun, please tell me that's not Uchiha Madara. I wouldn't want to be a liar, Yugi-chan. How is this possible? The Rinnegan has the power to bring back the dead, said Kurama, surprising Yugito that she could hear him. Don't worry, kitten. You're not crazy, said the Nibi to calm her Jinchuriki. Being a Jinchuriki, when you're close enough to another Jinchuriki, you can enter another mindscape. Another realm and speak to one another. Now listen to Kurama-kun, he'll explain it all since he's had the most run-ins with Madara. Yugito was ready to listen but was grabbed by Naruto and shifted to the other side of him to dodge a sword strike from Madara. Yugito was still held in Naruto's arms as she looked at him. Naruto was laser-focused as he looked at Madara. Keep your eyes peeled. You'll have to listen and move, Neko, said Naruto before letting Yugito go and placing his hands in the ram seal. Mokuten. Mokuru wood style. Wood dragon. A large wooden dragon sprang from the ground behind Naruto as its lower end coiled around Naruto and Yugito. Naruto then turned his head to Darui and she, who both just sat back in awe of what was happening before them. Get out of here and get me to safety. Tell Raikage Dono to come, we may need his assistance, said Naruto quickly before turning back to Madara. Ah yes, Hashirama's famous wood dragon. A powerful technique it is, said Madara with his arms crossed as he looked down at Naruto and Yugito. Yugito and Naruto weren't paying attention to Madara though as they'd been steadily listening to Kurama during the momentary break in the action. So our best bet would be to run, questioned Yugito as Kurama internally nodded her head. Is he really that powerful? Yes, Naruto, you remember how strong the chakra imprint of Hashirama was, questioned Kurama as Naruto knew where this was going. Madara is considered his equal. You'll either need to use Sage Mode and go all out or run, there's no in between here. Right, we can't necessarily run. Toby can teleport. And I don't want to enter Sage mode here, said Naruto in reply as he let his dragon slide its way to Madara. We may be miles from Kumogakure, but if the story is true about the Valley of the End, this site won't be big enough to handle the type of destruction without it affecting the village in some way. The village will be fine. It's just a place since I'm certain the civilians have evacuated, informed Yugito to keep Naruto from feeling guilty. Plus, if we run, what about B? Raikage-sama. Everyone else. If we just leave, that'll leave the village less guarded if he decides to attack it. Naruto watched Madara handle his wood dragon with experience garnered from his time against Hashirama as Naruto replied to Yugito. We'll take B as well. And if he's really after us Biju, he won't bother taking out Kumogakure or anything else. I'm certain of it, thought Naruto seeing his wood dragon get sliced in half by Madara. From Gigi's stories, Madara is a man who will take what is necessary, no more. And the only necessary for his plan are me, you, and Kurabi. That's all. Kumo will be safe. Yugito seemed to begrudgingly agree with the plan as eyes sparked into the field next to the Jinchuriki couple. I saw the two weren't harmed before peering his eyes out at Toby and then Madara. Seems Darui and she weren't lying. Uchiha Madara has returned, said I staring down the legendary Uchiha. Madara just looked at the hulking cage with his Sharingan. Yatsuki clan, users of the lightning armor technique. An ability that bolsters physical reflexes and speed to a degree of unprecedented quickness. So fast, even the Sharingan can't keep up, said Madara before adding. Well, most Sharingan that is. You'll see mine is a bit different. I'll go grab Hachibi while you handle this. Like hell, he will, shouted I before upping his lightning cloak. Feel free to go all out Naruto. You have my permission and it's likely a necessity for who you're facing. Toby vanished in a vortex as I sped to his brother's location. This left Yugito and Naruto alone to contend with Madara. Red markings began to form on Naruto's face as Madara's eyes widened in intrigue at Naruto. Sage mode. You really are just like Hashirama, said Madara as he looked on at the sage Jinchuriki that was Naruto. This is even better than I could have hoped for. Come, and if you are lucky, I may show you the full power of the Uchiha clan before your death. Naruto heard Madara's words and only responded by placing his hands together, palm touching palm. The ground began to rumble as the fight was underway. Thanks for reading I hit 1,000 reviews and 1 million story hits recently. I mean, wow. Big thank you to everyone who supports me in this story. Even if you don't review or anything, thank you for at least reading it. I truly appreciate it. Number 2. Another Omake series begins below. Assimilating the roots. It'll be very short since this story is almost over, but I hope you enjoy it if you keep reading smiley face. Omake. Assimilating the Roots Part 1. Naruto-kun, what brings you here? Asked the Yamanaka princess seeing the Jinchuriki walk in her family's shop. Naruto simply smiled at Ino as he continued to walk in through the store to the counter. Hi, Ino-chan. I need a favor, said Naruto as Ino noticed the flowers began to blossom more and the colors grew more vibrant. Just like always. Simply amazing, thought Ino before turning her attention to Naruto when he asked for a favor. What do you need? Are you getting flowers for Yugito-chan? With each Ino continued to draw her face closer to Naruto's as if she'd solved the case. Naruto merely cocked an eyebrow at that as Ino had a set of flowers already ready for him, practically pushing them into his arms. No, well yeah but, no. There's just this, friend of mine and he needs a job, said Naruto holding the flowers as Ino deflated at that. Needs a job. And you're wanting to see if he can work here? Questioned Ino as Naruto nodded his head. Well, I can't hire someone but I guess I can look at him and tell To-chan. That's the thing. Your dad already hired him, said Naruto as Ino put her hands on her hips and gave Naruto a quizzical look. I just need your help is all. I can't do it alone. He's a little rough around the edges. Had a bad childhood and I need you to help him learn how to be a normal person. A normal person? What's wrong with him? Questioned Ino as Naruto shrugged his shoulders. It's difficult to explain. Trust me, you'll notice it as soon as you see him, said Naruto before looking at Ino with shimmering eyes. A powerful puppy dog face that always helped him win over Ino. You'll help me won't you, Ino-chan? Ino's face never changed, nor did she fall victim to Naruto's pleading look. Naruto realized it after a few seconds and rose an eyebrow in confusion. What is going on? That always works on you, said Naruto as Ino just placed a hand to Naruto's whiskered cheek. Honey, ever since you started dating Yugito-chan, and me and her have become friends, I've grown past you. None of that will work on me anymore, said Ino, patting Naruto's cheek a few times. But I can do this for you. Where is your friend at? Behind you, Yamanaka-san. Ino nearly jumped out of her skin at the voice before turning around with a fist cocked back out of pure reaction. Never sneak up on a ninja or else you'd face a physical reaction like the one Ino was about to dish out. Though the pale-skinned boy merely picked up a palm as he caught Ino's fist in his hand and smiled at her. Sorry about scaring you. Ino calmed down at that as she took a good look at the pale boy in front of her. Why is his skin so white? Does he never get any sun? Thought Ino as she then looked up at his smiling face. And that smile is so forced. It looks downright creepy. Ino then turned her head to Naruto to only see him smiling at her. Sai, this is Ino. Ino-chan, that's Sai. I'll check on him in a few days. Thanks, Ino-chan. Naruto then vanished from Ino's shop in a shunshin before the platinum blonde could respond. Darn it. I now know what's going on, thought Ino, blowing out air that lifted her bang as it just fell back in place. These are those Root Anbu. Those kids Danzo had turned mindless soldiers according to Dad. Naruto's been placing them all over Konoha and now we have one. Why'd you let this happen, Tu-chan? Here of all places. Yamanaka-san, Naruto-san attempted to leave with those flowers for Yugito-san without paying. However, I managed to procure his wallet. Should I grab the funds necessary? Questioned Sai as Ino grinned deviously. Be sure to leave a nice tip as well, said Ino as Sai merely nodded his head and took the money from Naruto's wallet and placed it in the register. Ino nodded her head before patting Sai on the back. This might just work out. Welcome to the shop, Sai. End. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.